All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. This is the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast, the official podcast of thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. It is Friday, March 22nd. Where's the time go? Holy crap. Welcome to the show, everybody. Two-man show. Griffin, CJ here. We're bringing you all the news you need. Another show, another big episode for us, episode 300, and we still don't have a three-man show. That feels bad, but next time maybe. Well, we should have probably planned something cool and fun to do, some sort of giveaway. Maybe we'll do a giveaway for the listener league. Maybe early. Maybe we'll do something like that in an upcoming episode. So, tune in for that if you're interested in being one of our listener leagues this upcoming season. We probably should have done that for this show, but Jason couldn't be here, so we'll make a big thing out of maybe show 301. We'll see. But as always, amazing show for you guys today. Today, we're going to be talking about all the free agent fantasy impacts part 2. So, of course, if you were here with us on Tuesday's show, we talked about the quarterbacks, the running backs. We broke down, the implications of each player signing with their new teams on the rest of their team, the fantasy implications for them and the other players. We're going to continue that with the wide receivers and the tight ends today. Also, of course, bringing you all the top headlines from around the league. As always, make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening. We're a year-round show. We are on, obviously, YouTube, Twitch, iTunes/Apple Podcasts, depending on how you know it, Google Play, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, all over. You can follow us on social media at Twitter at the FF Fanatics. You can support the show at Patreon at patreon.com/the Fantasy Football Fanatics, and of course get your questions in through any sort of means that you can reach us. We're pretty good about getting back on that. And I guess let's go ahead and move right into it. Let's move into some of those top headlines from around the league, because this is going to be a long show today. We want to get through it as quickly as possible. So we'll start off with a little bit of league-wide news. ESPN is reportedly currently courting, is the word that was used, Peyton Manning for the new Monday Night Football anchor spot. So, Jason Witten's out. Everybody knows how good Tony Romo's been. Peyton Manning seems like a natural fit. I know some people are divided on their thoughts on this. And, of course, Peyton Manning, he doesn't necessarily need the money. He doesn't necessarily need to be, giving up 20-plus weeks of his life every year again. But he loves the game. Sounds like he's interested, probably seeing what he can get out of it. CJ, what are your thoughts on Peyton Manning being back with the NFL, but in a broadcasting capacity? Do you think he would do a good job?
He'll be a lot better than Jason Witten.
That's
so
fair.
I think I think the fit will work. I don't know if he's going to be able to live up to the Tony Romo. Nobody really saw how that was going to go down.
Romo's been so good.
He can possibly be that guy for Monday Night Football, and if that does happen, then it's going to be great for the league, and of course it'll be great for the fans as well, because the way how Romo's breaking the game down, it's making it more fun, even though you're a fan of football. Just seeing how he's just breaking everything down, seeing it before it happens, and then his enthusiasm. If we can be able to get that through Peyton Manning, then hey, I'm all aboard. I'm all on it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think he'd be less enthusiastic than Jason Witten seemed to be. And I'm sure that he's not going to approach it unless he's sure that that's something he really wants to be doing. So I think that it'll be probably a good experiment. I don't know if he's going to do it long term or not. I think he'll probably be good. I don't know. I've heard some people say that he's one of those guys that always tries to be funny, but he's not, but humor isn't really a big part of the broadcast. I mean, some people make it that way. I don't really know if it's good analytics. Like, that's my favorite thing about Tony Romo. Tony Romo's like, oh, you see they're lining up? I would bet you any amount of money this ball's going to the left, and it goes to the left. Like, he's so good at breaking down plays like that. And Peyton Manning, a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback. We all know that about him. All pro, all time caliber guy. He should be able to give us that level of breakdown analytics, you would think. If he can verbalize it as well, time will tell. But, I feel like he should probably be able to do that. We'll see, though. So, yeah, Peyton Manning could be back, and we might be starting to see him every week going forward during football season. So, interesting news there. Let's go to the quarterback position, where unrestricted free agent quarterback RG3, that's Robert Griffin III, has re-signed with the Baltimore Ravens on a 2-year deal, backing up Lamar Jackson. So, we talked about this on Friday's show. I would be shocked if this didn't happen. He had time with the team. He obviously has now worked with Lamar Jackson, Greg Roman, and he's he's actually a passing quarterback, a mobile quarterback, but one that can pass the ball. So it's, a similar play style with Lamar Jackson. As Lamar Jackson develops in his career, I think RG3 can help him in that aspect. But it's one of those things where, unlike Joe Flacco to Lamar Jackson, it's completely different offensive philosophies. If Lamar Jackson was to go down, RG3, not that different. I mean, again, a mobile guy, runs the read option. But to this point in his career, I think he's a better passer. I don't think that says much about Lamar Jackson, but that's kind of the way it is. CJ, what are your thoughts here? I think it's a natural fit.
I think it's a natural fit. I mean, he did good with them last year. I think we all saw the Baltimore impact on him as a player and the coaching staff during the preseason, and he got to get a couple games. He did play in the regular season too, didn't he? He played a couple games, snaps. Right? Yeah, he got some snaps in before Lamar came in. So I think it'll be good. I mean, he's in the NFL. He's in a good coaching system, man. I think that's good for RG3, and I'm all about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a natural fit. Again, I don't know who they would possibly bring in that could be as good of a complementary piece, short of maybe a couple starters around the league that Lamar Jackson could learn from. No, not Bortles. Not Bortles. Definitely not Bortles. I'm debating now. Like, would I actually want Blake Bortles over Lamar? Like, because obviously my argument is, I don't like having two completely different style quarterbacks. Now, if it was like, oh, it's a startup and you have Blake Bortles, Lamar Jackson obviously has all the future. Blake Bortles has been a bust at this point in his career. But one can pass the ball, one doesn't. You have to assume Lamar Jackson is going to be a very good player in this league. He's a good fantasy option, obviously, because he runs the ball incredibly well. He can throw the ball, but, I mean, just you have to imagine that he's going to try and open it up more in his next season. So I would definitely side with Lamar Jackson here. But, I mean, Blake Bortles, who knows? We talked about this a lot on Tuesday's show and a bit on Friday's show, I think, didn't we? With him going to the Rams, Sean McVay, better weapons around him. If something was to happen to Goff, maybe he'd probably be a good streaming option. I don't think he's a guy you'd be going out and burning any sort of waiver priority for, but in a good matchup, he'd have a good surrounding system. It could be interesting, but that's a whole nother argument. I can see you're super enthused about that. I'm not saying Blake Bortles is a world beater. He's not, but he's given us good fantasy production at times throughout his career, and he's in a much better system with better weapons now. So that's a whole nother side thing. We're talking about RG3, Lamar Jackson, the Baltimore Ravens, mobile quarterbacks who can chuck the ball downfield. Hopefully Lamar Jackson takes that next step in his development and gets some good downfield accuracy, but they've got to get him weapons. The Ravens, again, Willie Snead is their number one option. That's not a good situation to go into an NFL season. I mean,
he's your slot guy at best.
At best, he was honestly pretty good last season. Statistically, not so much, but none of the wide receivers were any good once Lamar Jackson came in because he didn't chuck the ball. They ran, and then they ran some more, and then they threw the ball just because they had to change the pace every now and then. Willie Snead, he made some very impressive plays with limited opportunity. I think he could be a really good 2. I think he's really well suited to be a 3, which is what he was last year. As a number 1, no, drawing number 1 coverage, I don't want any part of that. So yeah, they'll draft somebody. I'm sure they're gonna try and do a new approach. I don't think they're done. I think they might trade for somebody. Time will tell, but we'll move on. RG3 back with the Ravens, solid depth backing up Lamar Jackson. Again, guy who knows the system, guy who runs a similar style offense. Let's go into the wide receiver position. Now this was interesting. There are reports that are starting to come out, as these things tend to do as we move through the offseason and news comes out and rumors start to leak. Reports are coming out that there were mentions that the Kansas City Chiefs were, quote, throwing Tyreek Hill's name, end quote, around in trade talks at the beginning of free agency. Now, I'm sure that this had to do with that they knew that something was coming down from the league, and we don't know the future of Tyreek Hill. If you are a Tyreek Hill dynasty owner, you are completely hung out to dry right now. You don't know, because if he plays and he's found innocent of all these charges, you've got a top 5 fantasy wide receiver. You just do. An awesome guy and a really good offense. The production we know is there. On the opposite side, there's a possibility that with all the infringements and the fact that this is personal conduct policy, domestic abuse, and how this ties into some stuff that happened to him in his college days, makes it a multiple offense, and plus the fact that it could have involved a child, all these extra penalties that can be stacked on top. He might never play in the NFL again. And so it's a really interesting spot and an unfortunate spot. And honestly, if you're again, if you're drafting right now, you shouldn't be. But if you have a dynasty league or a keeper league, and Tyreek Hill is your number one wide receiver, like what do? Are you moving him for pennies on the dollar? Are you taking whatever you can think you can get from him? Or are you trying to sell him on name value, or do you hold him because you know if he comes back, he's again a top 5 caliber guy? And bottom line, here we are. It's March 22nd. We just don't know anything at all. He's innocent until proven guilty, and then once the legal proceedings are done, everything else is going to start. It's going to be a snowball effect. So as of now, what are you trying to do if you're a Tyreek Hill owner, CJ?
I mean, I'm holding on to him, to be honest, man. For me, I'm looking at it. If this is a situation kind of like the Kareem Hunt situation, I know that that's 8 games, so we'll see. This is his first offense. We'll see what's going on. At most, you're probably going to be doing the same thing. That's 8 games. Okay, 8 games. So if I'm in a keeper league, I'm going to keep him. I'm going to have to scramble up and draft well to be able to get me a 1 and 2 and then a third wide receiver to be able to hold me over to those 8 games. Hope I manage my team well enough, stack up some wins, so that when I'm on my way for a playoff run, I can be able to insert Tyreek Hill right up in that mix. And that's keeper. If I'm not in the keeper and this is just a straight up draft, you kind of gotta have the same approach, because we're gonna get like you guys we've gotten to before with this Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb scenario. He's kind of a situation where you gotta, if you're in on Kareem Hunt, you gotta be in on Nick Chubb, because you're gonna have to draft both of these dudes. So with Tyreek Hill, you mean their situation. I mean, you're basically saying if you're in on Tyreek Hill, you got to be in on Sammy Watkins. I know that just sickens me to even say those words, because Sammy Watkins has been nothing to me. He's done nothing for me. You know what I mean? But that's basically what you got to do.
He's flashing this league. Yeah. Healthy with a full off season with Andy Reid in that offense, Burke and Patrick Mahomes.
How long is he going to be healthy though? That's the thing.
See, that's the thing. We don't know.
How many games? How many games is this going to be for?
Man,
come on. You see, that's what I'm saying. If you got to do all of that to validate your point with the guy, you just leave him alone. There's no need to draft him, man, because he's gonna keep doing this.
Yeah, but you're gonna get a lot of value out of him. I mean, okay, look, Sammy Watkins. We're talking about a guy who's been in the league for, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this will be his 6th season. He's had 1 fully healthy season, his rookie year with the Bills back in 2014. Then he played 13 games, 8 games, and then the last 2 seasons, to be fair, 15 and 10, so double digits at least. Maybe he gets healthy. Look, there was a foot injury there that it was mishandled, and clearly it affected his productivity. One of those things tend to linger. That's behind him. I think he should be healthy next year, and I don't know. Look, he feels like a guy who should be like ancient. Like he's a name that's been around for a while. You think he's like closer to 30 than anything.
Annoying name that's been around for a while.
He's 25 years old, so he's still a pretty young guy with an amazing opportunity. Like I've seen people saying like, look, I was offered Sammy Watkins for Tyreek Hill straight up. What should I do? And I'm like, look, we don't know, because we don't know. Because of the amount of the infringements right now. Again, we don't know if Tyreek Hill will play in this league again. He could be facing an indefinite suspension, the commissioner's exempt list, all these things that could happen. So it's really hard to say. And bottom line, it comes down to your team, comes down to your depth, and it comes down to the offers you're given, and you have to do what you feel is right. If you get a very, believably good offer, especially if you assume he's going to miss at least some time, maybe you pull that trigger. Or if you are a firm believer that you're going to stick by your guns and know you've got a top 5 guy, and if he's going to face just a maybe up to a year suspension, and you're going to ride that out, that's on you. But you've got to be competitive. You've got to try and win now, and that's just the fantasy aspect versus the real life aspect. And bottom line, the real life affects the fantasy because it's going to keep him off the field. We just don't know what the duration is. So to me, you got to do what's best for you and your team. And if you get an offer that sounds right and feels right, maybe you got to pull that trigger. But if you want to hold on to Tyreek Hill, I don't think anyone's going to fault you for that either. It's kind of my view on it. Do you feel differently than that, CJ, or are you just kind of sticking to?
Feel the same.
Feel the same. All right.
I'm definitely not going to fault you.
Yeah. I mean, if he's gone, Sammy Watkins slides into the number one, and then I think that Travis Kelce becomes the true number one on that team. Obviously, him and Sammy Watkins are going to be splitting all the targets here. Damian Williams and Carlos Hyde at the running back position. This offense is going to work. They know how to get guys open. They're featured guys. They know how to get them the ball. The productivity is going to probably take a step back from the explosive beginning of the season last year. Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, Patrick Mahomes, obviously chucking the ball, and Travis Kelce, like the unbelievable amount of production they had there. And we could be looking at a team that's, Patrick Mahomes, which I'm calling is going to regress this year. It's just an unsustainable pace. I still think he's going to be really, really, really good, a top 6 guy, an elite guy. But I can't imagine he stays on the pace that he was on. But he's got a downgrade at running back with Damian Williams, and he could have a downgrade at wide receiver from Tyreek Hill to Sammy Watkins. We just don't know. So do what's right for you. Do what feels right, based on what you're offered, your league, your team's needs, and the scenario. And we'll let you know when we know more. Hopefully you don't have to make that decision too quickly. Let's move on. Unrestricted free agent wide receiver, former of the Green Bay Packers, Randall Cobb, has signed a 1-year, $5 million contract with the Dallas Cowboys, reportedly pretty incentive-laced. CJ, what are your thoughts on this signing? Because Jason and I broke down this news because it was reported earlier in the week, and so we knew that he was meeting with the team, but the signing hadn't happened yet. What are your thoughts on this landing spot for Randall Cobb? Because we didn't really see it. We didn't see the need.
I mean, I feel like it works out for Dak Prescott, a veteran wide receiver, better put in the slot. There's only big knock on him, these recent years is injuries, but that's with every player. I think he's veteran wide receiver, been playing in this scheme. Will do great for Dak Prescott, and especially Cole Beasley's gone now, so you got put him in the slot. There was arguments that they put Tavon Austin in the slot. They can probably still do that too. Run 4 wide receiver sets, put the whole gang out there. But for me, when I saw the news broke, I was like, okay, that might work, especially with the new offensive coordinator there. They can be able to open the playbook up some more, and be more less dull with the offense. And what I'm hearing from Cowboys fans, that's what their biggest complaint was with Scott Linehan. I think that was their offensive coordinator. It was too predictable. So they get this new kid and this new guy in there that's from the I'm trying to remember what tree he's from, but basically opening up this offense and hopefully to be able to expand that Prescott's game.
I mean, the argument that we had on why we didn't see the need for it was, they have obviously Amari Cooper. They have Michael Gallup, who we think is a good number 2 and a great young talent, 3rd-round pick from last season. They brought in Allen Hurns last season, who's still there, who can be a good number 2 as well. They have Tavon Austin, who was a guy that they were saying, what was it? They were going to get like 15, 20 snaps a game this time last year, which we all kind of laughed at, and obviously that did not end up being the case. I think he got that many snaps or that many touches the whole year. Randall Cobb, I think, slides into that slot spot with Tavon Austin, and then they've got kind of 3 decent outside guys. Obviously, Amari Cooper, the number 1, Michael Gallup, Allen Hurns. They've got good options. Jason Witten coming back. I mean, that depends on how much you believe he has juice in the tank, honestly. I'm not a big believer in these guys that are... Look, he was drafted in 2003. He's pretty ancient for a player. Tight ends, they generally have a little bit more juice in them. Took a season off, probably healthy, but he's going to be 37 years old playing tight end in the NFL. I don't think he's going to be a guy that you're going to want to go out and get for fantasy. I don't know. So to me, this helps. Obviously, the offense. This obviously helps Dak Prescott. It's another proven target. It's a veteran name. They're getting him for pennies on the dollar, and really, they're getting him for a low-risk contract. And I think that he'll be a good underneath guy that can play outside when needed. So, I mean, if you break it down, you can make a scenario where it makes a lot of sense for them. I just didn't see the need. But, I mean, hey, the Cowboys went out. They got him, and now they've got
depth. See the need for Kareem Hunt in freaking the Browns, but they did that stupid move.
I mean, that makes sense for the future, though, where they'll be able to trade one of those guys for a lot of value down the line if they decide to. But this signing, this is a rental. This is a temporary slot fill. It adds some dynamic layers to their offense, but I don't think it's going to be a fantasy home run by any stretch of the imagination, because Randall Cobb makes a sizable downgrade from Aaron Rodgers to Dak Prescott. So that alone is going to make
Big.
Randall
big.
Cobb's probably not draftable. I would say that if he's a late round flyer at the very least. If you're a Cowboys fan, maybe you'll grab him. All right, last bit of news. Wide receiver Philip Dorsett has re-signed with the New England Patriots, so that'll be his third season with the team, and that's the wide receiver position. At the tight end position, this was rumored. Unrestricted free agent, I said quarterback, tight end Jared Cook. He left New Orleans without a contract, but reportedly has agreed to terms with the New Orleans Saints. I really like this signing. I think that this is a great fit, and this gives Drew Brees a pretty good option. I wouldn't say he's elite. I wouldn't say he's Jimmy Graham, but this gives him definitely the best option at tight end that they've had since Jimmy Graham has been gone. So, I think that this is good for real life. I think this is good for fantasy. And I think Jared Cook just landed himself as probably a top 6 tight end in your fantasy drafts. CJ, what do you think?
I agree too. I think this is a solid signing. He's got a quarterback that's going to give him the ball because, Drew Brees right now, this deep ball is not there. So that mid-range and short intermediate routes, this is what it's going to do. And that's what Jared Cook showed you last year in Oakland. So, yeah, it's going to work out. Good signing to me. Yeah,
it was a signing that made too much sense not to happen. When he left New Orleans without a contract, I was saying it has to come down to money because we know he can play. He's not, the youngest guy out there. He's 31. I think he's going to be 32 at the beginning of the season. So he's not quite off the cliff. He's not ancient for a tight end, but big body, athletic guy. He did a good amount with what he had last season in Oakland, and finished pretty darn good. He finished as a what was he, the tight end 5, I think, in fantasy, and now he gets an upgrade at quarterback and offense. So you could easily see him finish as probably a tight end 4 through 6 again. I think you can pencil him in for that, and potentially higher depending on how much he's used and what happens with the guys in front of him. Let's move on though. A little bit of other news before we get to the topic of the day. Now, these are all defensive players, so if you don't do IDP. You may not know this, but this does impact fantasy. This impacts matchups. This impacts real life football a lot, and it's important news. So we'll just go through these really fast. Former Kansas City Chiefs linebacker Justin Houston has signed with the Indianapolis Colts for a 2-year, $24 million contract. I think that's a logical move for the Colts. They needed a more veteran presence, and they desperately need upgrades on the defensive side of the ball. What are you pretty happy with the signing, CJ?
I think it's good. Veteran, be able to come in there and help out that linebacking core. Desmond Leonard last year, led the league in tackles. So bringing in that veteran, leadership in there definitely won't hurt his growth.
Yeah, they run a 4-3 defense there, so I think he'll technically be on the outside. I think at the Sam position, I would believe. Yeah, same. So I don't know. He's going to be able to, drop into coverage, rush the passer, obviously crowd the line. I think this is a good signing. Justin Houston, again, he's one of these guys that you feel like he's been around forever, but really he's 30 years old. He's going to be 30 for the season. He's already turned 30 this year. So, when you hear his name, don't you feel like he should be like 36? I don't know. Yeah. I feel like he's been in this league forever, but he's 30. So, hey, more power to him. Got a good contract. I think he's got plenty of juice left in him, and I think he's going to go out there and he's going to really help the Colts defense, which the defense, let's be real, besides needing a couple upgrades on the offensive side, the defense is what really kept them from really going through the playoffs and making any sort of run here. I wouldn't say that the Colts last year were a Super Bowl contender, but we've talked at length about how Frank Wright
surprised a lot of people. Yeah.
They've surprised a lot of people. Frank Wright did great things here, and they've made some other upgrades, which we will talk about when we get to the topic of the day. So we'll save that. We'll table that. This next guy, kind of like Justin Houston, honestly, and a couple other players that we've named throughout the last couple episodes. This next guy on this list is one of those guys that changed teams. Nobody ever saw it as one of those guys who would ever change teams, and this is one of my problems with the structure of the free agency in the NFL. I think that should be like other sports where home teams can offer you bigger contracts, but it has a lesser cap hit to keep your homegrown guys in-house. That to me would be the right way to do it, because Clay Matthews, longtime Green Bay Packer, iconic player for the franchise, does commercials for them all over the place. Clay Matthews as one of the faces of the Green Bay Packers. Well, now he's a Los Angeles Ram, so that just feels wrong. CJ, what are your thoughts on Clay Matthews joining the Los Angeles Rams?
I feel like that this is a guy that's coming with going to a defense that can definitely use him because they just let go of Mark Barron. So he's going to a defense that you have a great defensive line, solid cornerback play. Bringing in Eric Weddle, good safety play in the back end. I think he's a guy that can be able to come in there, Wade Phillips defense, and basically make a difference and make a smooth transition from Green Bay to this. We saw the plays that he was making last year. A lot of controversy over those plays. Some of those plays cost the Packers some games.
Yeah.
Saying just because the poor officiating, but he's still got some juice in him, and I think he's still got some game, and he's definitely gonna. I feel like he's gonna have an impact on this Rams defense.
I mean, it's a low risk, high reward thing for the Rams. Obviously Clay Matthews, he goes from the Packers, which, let's be real, not the best defensive system we've ever seen. They've never been an elite defense. It's just not who they are. Through various regimes. To the Los Angeles Rams, where he lands with Wade Phillips, unbelievably really good defensive coordinator with a lot of talent around him, a guy who knows how to get his pass rushers at the quarterback with one-on-one matchups. I think that Clay Matthews could be a nice logical fit, and maybe this is the resurgence Clay Matthews needed, because really the last 3 years we haven't seen like a truly like signature elite Clay Matthews season since 2015 with the Packers. 2015 he had 49 tackles, 6.5 sacks, not too bad. Year before that he had 11 sacks. That was a really good year for him. That was kind of what we expected with the same tackle range out of him. But the last couple years he's been in the 20 tackle range, and he's been around 5 sacks rather. He only had 3.5 sacks all of last season, and he played all 16 games. So he's not a guy. Look, for the name that he's been, he has not played up to the level of what he was being paid. He now goes to the Rams, where I think he has the opportunity with a new environment and new surroundings and a new teams. I think he could succeed. I think he's probably got a little bit left in the tank. I don't know if I expect him to get back to for instance, his 2012 season. 13 sacks. I don't think we'll ever see that again. That's in the past.
Might get 6, maybe 7, depending on what's going on. But I think 6 is probably his cap going into this season right there, and he has a possibility of getting that 7 or 8.
I think he's going to be a rotational piece, and I think they're going to bring him in during blitz packages. Wade Phillips is going to get him one-on-one opportunities. I could see Clay Matthews getting kind of to his average somewhere in the 6.5 to 7.5 sack range. With upside, he could do better than that, but that's kind of where I have him penciled in right now, which is a decent season for a guy. 32 years old. He's going to be 33 at the beginning of the year. Clay Matthews, look, he's going to eventually retire, and he's going to be in the Ring of Honor for the Packers, but, he's playing for the Rams now. He was born in Los Angeles, so maybe he's going back home. Who knows? But yeah, that's just one of those ones where I'm just like, man, the league needs to change. The new CBA, when they come to negotiate that in a couple of years, they need to figure out a way to do that. So, home teams can offer these guys a lot more money to stay there, and it doesn't hit the cap as badly, because, these are guys that, they shouldn't change teams unless they really want to. I don't know. That's me, and maybe it's because my Ravens have lost so many key players over the years. Yeah. Maybe it's just a sore spot for me. Who knows? But I love the way that other sports do that, and I think the NFL should have something similar. That's just me. This next guy, though, I'm kind of surprised he got a signing anywhere, though this is a natural fit. Unrestricted free agent linebacker Vontaze Burfict. He's signing with the Oakland Raiders on a 1-year deal. Widely considered one of the dirtiest players in the game. So signing with the Raiders, not the craziest landing spot. The Raiders love to have that kind of they like to have that aura around them, like this dangerous.
Their coach is Chucky. You might as well bring in, Jason Voorhees from former Bengal. Might as well.
Yep. So I mean, this is again to me a natural landing spot. They had a need at linebacker. He's gonna come in. He's gonna be their starting probably will side linebacker. Again, they run a 4-3 there. What are your thoughts on this, CJ?
Well, he hasn't been the player that we've been accustomed to seeing these, outside of these last couple of years that, it's basically showing you that, he's kind of, some will say falling off. A couple seasons ago, he was great as far as tackles, interceptions, sacks. So you're in, IDP, depending on, what kind of, what's the breakdown of the league as far as your lineup goes. I think Vontaze Burfict would still be a good if you're in a league or us where we do 3 linebackers, I think he can fill that third spot, even, maybe a reserve spot for you, and you can still get some good play from him. You're not gonna have to go out early, spend a lot of money on him in the draft. That's probably one of those guys you're probably going to pick up towards the end of the draft, or even most likely free agency. When the draft is over. But he's a solid player. If he stays healthy and stays out of trouble, you're gonna get those points from him tackling.
I mean, he's had some up and down seasons for fantasy the last couple of years. I think he's probably downgraded, honestly. Guther's defense, I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll see. That's the thing. I think he's going to be probably a guy who gets drafted on name recognition, and I think he will not perform, and he'll be riding a lot of people's benches. We'll see. Who knows? He's got a long track record of getting tossed out of games, so maybe or facing
suspensions. Yeah.
Suspensions. Yeah. So we'll see. I won't be drafting him. I'll put it out there. In IDP leagues. And last bit of news: Mark Barron. He is signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Natural signing, fills a need. Do you see this as a real fix for the Pittsburgh Steelers, or do you think this is a depth move?
I think he'll start, and it's just that's something moves like this where it's and I know the player. I seen the player in the previous regime with the Rams, saw how he plays there, solid. Now he's going to Pittsburgh. This is a guy that I'm going to watch in the preseason, preferably that third week where all the starters going on, and seeing what his role in this defense is going to be. It's not set in stone. It's not going to be the full thing, but you'll start to see just a glimpse of what he can be able to do in that system. And then I'm going to check the box scores and see what he does. And then that's a guy that I'm probably going to keep on my list, because I love Mark Barron as a player anyway. The tackles, he's been a tackling machine. You look at his stats, his seasons the last couple of years, you see where, he's in there. At least he's got to be in the top 15. But he's been great for me. I love him as a guy that I can be able to get later on and be able to add him to my linebacker crew. IDP wise, I think Mark Barron is a good player. It's just, for me, I'm gonna have to do a little more research with his new role with Pittsburgh.
Well, he's not a sack guy. I mean, he's had more seasons where he's gotten 1 or less sacks than he's had ones where he's gotten 2 or more. Yeah. So he's
tackles. I didn't say sacks.
Well, no, for fantasy, obviously. Sacks are where you get the high ceiling performance, because you usually you get baseline for tackles. That's your floor. Sacks, interceptions, fumble recoveries. That's your big boom plays. He's had 9 sacks in his career. And he's been in the league for 8 seasons. This will be his 9th season. So you're not going to get a lot out of that. Like CJ said, he's a tackle machine, but that's also been on the decline. The last 3 years alone, 118 combo tackles, 91 of which were solo tackles back in 2016. Awesome. Last year, 86 combined tackles. Last year, 60. He's constantly been declining, but he's also been injured. Went from 16 games to 14 games to 12 games. He's going to a downgrade on the defensive side. Keith Butler's defense. I think that they are an opportunistic defense, but I wouldn't say that they're nearly as good as the Wade Phillips defense. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I think he's going to be brought in as he's going to play inside. He's going to be an inside linebacker for them. But I don't know. I would assume they're bringing him in to be a starter. I just don't know if on name value alone, he's probably going to get picked up in a lot of leagues. I think that, kind of like you were saying earlier with Perfect, I think this is a guy that I would like to have as my probably third linebacker, or if I'm in a 2 linebacker league, get him as my second or my flex guy, and know that there's the upside. If he can stay healthy with opportunity, with surrounding talent, he might get a lot of tackles. So that's kind of my thought process on him. He's hopefully, if he can stay healthy, has a good floor with upside. But I don't know. The change of scenery, I think, will not be necessarily the best thing for him, because the defensive philosophy won't be as good. But that's just me. Anything you want to add, CJ?
No, man, we can move on.
Let's move on. All right, let's get to why we're all here. Our topic of the day, our free agent fantasy impacts, part number 2. Again, we went through the quarterbacks, we went through the running backs on last episode. Make sure you go back and you check that. We're going on to the wide receivers and the tight ends. Some of these guys, we've kind of touched on already, so we'll just kind of gloss over them pretty quickly. But as we've talked about at great length already, well, we have to start with a trade that happened at the beginning of free agency. A couple of trades, actually. Antonio Brown, Pittsburgh Steelers, now the Oakland Raiders. Obviously, we have all said we're expecting him to have a downgrade here. We think he's going to probably still be a wide receiver one because he's that level of talented, but you have to assume that his ceiling is capped. The quality of play around him, the offensive philosophy, the amount they pass the ball, going from Ben Roethlisberger, who's always been kind of an underrated quarterback one in this league, like one of the top echelon guys, to a why am I blanking on? Derek Carr. It's going to affect his upside. So obviously the Raiders, they trade for Antonio Brown. They signed Tyrell Williams from the Chargers. They signed JJ Nelson from the Cardinals. They've completely revamped this wide receiver core. So let's just talk about the Raiders as a whole. I think that this is a huge upgrade for Derek Carr. But what does this mean for all the players themselves? CJ, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think once again, like you said, this is an upgrade on Derek Carr, and I feel like Derek Carr is basically the keys to the engine of all three of these wide receivers and how productive they can be able to be. You made a comment about you don't know what the offensive structure is going to be, and that's going to play a big part of it as well. Them be able to upgrade the offensive line to give Derek Carr some more time back there. That's going to be a big part of it. And of course, what they have in the running back group. We still don't know what's going on with Marshawn Lynch. Is he going to come back? Are they going to just keep rocking with their wide receivers they already have with Washington and Richards? That's the thing. They're good compliment, but they're not a stable guy that that could a bell cow, as they say. I know that name, that word is starting to get, it's losing its value in this league, especially
It
now.
is, yeah.
These two back sets. But you hear Mike Mayock, their GM, talk about it, and that's what he mentions. He mentions a bell cow. So this is one organization that needs that guy. So do they have that person there? But I feel like all of those things are going to contribute and are the keys or holding them back or elevating these guys with Antonio Brown, Williams, and JJ Nelson, because that alone right there, that trio is very nice and very good for Derek Carr, and he should be successful. But there's a lot of other things that are going to play a part on if this is going to be success or is this going to be a failure in a tank. So I
Yeah.
don't know.
I don't know. So obviously, Derek Carr, we said downgrade. Marshawn Lynch, we don't know if he's coming back. He signed a 2-year deal to play with the Raiders the last 2 years they were in town. Raiders are going to be back for one more year, so that's something. Maybe they have a nice north-south bruising running back. Again, not somebody I'm running out to draft, but for the sake of these wide receivers, this is a downgrade for Antonio Brown. I think a massive upgrade for Tyrell Williams. He goes from a congested wide receiver core, 4 big wide receivers, pass-catching tight end, pass-catching running back in Los Angeles with the Chargers, to the Oakland Raiders, where they really don't have any sort of elite, really resemblance of an elite pass-catching running back. Obviously, Antonio Brown's in town. He's going to draw the top coverage and the vast amount of the targets. But Tyrell Williams, he comes in as the kind of speedy outside number 2 guy. I think he's going to fill a role where he's going to get a lot of targets. And JJ Nelson, he's going to be a slot guy. He's a tiny dude. He's going to be their slot dude. I don't think that he's going to really vulture anything. I'm not going out to pick up JJ Nelson. So my question, I guess, to you, CJ, final question before we move on here. Antonio Brown, Tyrell Williams, what range are you looking to draft these guys? Because obviously there's a lot of range of fluctuation here based on your beliefs on, we always talk about the new face and the new place and how that impacts a player alone, much less, the new switching teams, new players, new offensive philosophies, new playbooks, everything changing around them. But you've got somebody the caliber of Antonio Brown. So where are you looking to take him right now in drafts? Maybe round and, in the range of wide receivers.
I think Antonio Brown is going to go in the first round. I think it's going to be late. And then, just a shot in the dark right now in my early rankings. Antonio Brown is 5th right now in my rankings. If I just go right off the top of my head, he's 5th. And then Williams, I think Williams is probably going to go late 3rd, early 4th. That's what I'm thinking for him. And then he is ranking wise, shot in the dark. He's probably going to be range maybe 25 to 20, probably in that range for me. 25
Okay,
to
so
20.
you're pretty high on him.
Yeah.
So for me, with Antonio Brown, downgrade. Obviously, he's pretty universally been the number one, the elite guy, the first wide receiver off the board, almost always. I have him right now as my wide receiver 8. And that's with the assumption that Tyreek Hill will play a full season. I haven't made that adjustment yet. If he doesn't, he moves up to my wide receiver 7. I have him going right around like Mike Evans and obviously Juju Smith-Schuster, T.Y. Hilton, guys of that nature, Adam Thielen. I think that's a safe floor, obviously, with ceiling upside. Tyrell Williams, he's a guy that I would happily take in like probably 6th, 7th round. I think would be like an awesome spot to get him, because I think he's going to slip further than that because he's just not a name value. I think people are going to sleep on him, and he's a guy that I think can finish as probably this is putting a lot on Derek Carr, who's not been an elite passer in this league. He's had one really good season, but his average yards per target and depth and all of that, they've been about average. Even that's been with an elite offensive line. Now he's got an okay offensive line with some really good weapons. I think that gives you a safe floor with the potential of upside, where he could finish as a flex wide receiver 3 with wide receiver 2 probably upside week to week, and obviously he could explode for a big game here or there. I'm not touching JJ Nelson, and to give everybody at home a feel for where people are going, Antonio Brown is going as the wide receiver 9. Wow, 9th pick in the 2nd round. What do you think about that, CJ? People are fading on him fast.
That's a steal. In the 2nd round, I'll definitely take a number 1 wide receiver in the 2nd round.
Yeah, I have him going 8th, but and they have him going 9th, but I had him going as probably like a early to the very least a mid 2nd round guy, not basically a fringe 2nd rounder. That's pretty insane. Wow. And Tyrell Williams is going as this can't be right. It's right because it's based off current drafts, but this is going to adjust. He's currently going as the 66th wide receiver off the board.
Wow.
As the 6th pick in the 14th round. So
wow.
that hasn't had enough time to swing the other way yet.
Because that has to come up some.
I can't
at least
believe
6th round. At least 6th round. I might be sweet on him a little too much. Same. But dang, good gracious.
Yeah.
Wow. Look, hey, if it goes down like that, take him. Yeah, we'll take him.
If people want to sleep on him, I'll wait. I'll happily wait on him. Yeah. I'll take a lot of them, and I'll go out and I'll get a obviously bye-week plug-in guy and a flex play with Tyrell Williams with a lot of upside there. Yeah, I could do that. Look, Derek Carr, he supported multiple viable fantasy assets, though. Go back to the Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree days in their heydays. Right. They were 2 guys that were fringe 1s and 2s.
I feel like that's what Mayock and Gruden are looking at, going back and say, hey, how can we get back to, Derek Carr getting to that type of success? What was going on? What was the chemistry? What was the flow? What was the offensive philosophy back then? And I think they're probably trying to see if they can be able to reignite that, that animal out of that guy.
Yeah. And of course, we should also mention, in case people aren't up on the news, we covered this. Jordy Nelson's been cut, so there's that too. He's not there anymore. So yeah, Antonio Brown, Tyrell Williams, JJ Nelson, speedy guy, but really small guy, really small guy. 5'10", 151. He's pretty skinny. He looks like he's gonna break if you've ever seen him outside of his football pads. Even with his football pads on, he looks like he'll be
him and that
broken.
Him and that stupid helmet look like Marvin the Martian. Big freaking helmet on him.
Yeah, that's fair. He's speedy little guy, but he looks like again, 1 good tackle is all it's going to take to snap him in half. So maybe that's why he has trouble staying healthy for full seasons. Just putting that out there. Another big trade that went down, of course, Odell Beckham Jr. being traded from the Giants to the Cleveland Browns. My division loses Antonio Brown and gains Odell Beckham Jr. I hate everything. We've covered this at pretty good length, but obviously the impacts here, I don't think this really affects Odell at all. He goes from, obviously, Eli Manning to a really young, up-and-coming sensation with Baker Mayfield, a guy I've been nothing but high on going into the draft season last year. Through all of last year, he proved me right, and I've come out and said that I see him, and he's going to be in my rankings, as a top 6 quarterback. Bold, maybe, but I feel comfortable with it. Obviously, I think that this is really, really a negative shot for Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry is not the number one anymore. Jarvis has always been a underneath, short to intermediate guy, move the chains, possession receiver. Odell Beckham's going to require that amount of targets as well. So, I mean, the two of them are going to help each other have probably pretty consistent weeks. But Jarvis probably takes a step down in PPR leagues. This is a real negative shot to David Njoku, who looked prime for a really good breakout year next year. I think that his opportunity just nosedived because Odell Beckham Jr. is going to be their top target in the red zone. And this only helps the running game. But as we talked about on last week's show, the running game right now is it's in chaos. Nick Chubb, obviously.
Messy.
Yeah, it's messy. It's darn messy. Kareem Hunt suspended 8 games, to be fair. But Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Duke Johnson in-house. It's messy. That's a good word for it. So, but look, Odell Beckham Jr. in my rankings, I haven't budged him at all. I had him as my wide receiver 3. I still have him as my wide receiver 3. What are you thinking, CJ?
I'm thinking wide receiver wise, I got him top 3.
Okay.
I got him ranked number 2. Then as far as where I'm drafting him, he's definitely still first round wide receiver for me. And then as far as what my projections are from him this season, I'm with you. I mean the fact where I don't see I see an improvement in quarterback play, to be honest.
Yeah.
So you got Baker there. Kitchens, he got the best out of this guy. You know what I'm saying? When Hugh got out of there and Kitchens took over, man, Baker just started opening up. So I felt like, with all the talent there, that these guys are definitely going to feed off each other. Now in fantasy football, it's all about who's going to be able to get the most points, get the most touches, and be consistent with it. And with Juice being be able to take the underneath stuff, and Odell can be able to do the same thing, but also go for the top.
Yeah.
I mean, you really, you this is an offense where you kind of want to be able to double down. You want to be able to take Baker and get one of these wide receivers. And the top 2 wide receivers are, if you can't get Odell, then try to get Juice, because Baker's in a position, just like you said, if everything works out, where he's got gold at every position. What I'm saying? He can go anywhere. And his points per game last year, they're definitely gonna double going into the season, man, because it's crazy the amount of talent that's going around here.
The way, and this is disgusting for me to say, especially as a Ravens fan, AFC North fan, it's disgusting for me to say this, and I've come out and said that I expect the Browns to they're going to be playing for the division. They're probably going to win it. But they have a really, really good team. 0-16 2 years ago. Half a game under 500 last year, and now probably winning the division, a playoff contender this year. Vegas, as we said earlier, has them penciled in as the 5th most likely team to win the Super Bowl. What? Yeah. And as we've kind of joked about, you can't draft this fantasy team, and they have it as their real life team. They have got a ton of weapons, and because of the way this is played out, and a lot of this, kudos to everyone from the top on down, this is becoming the blueprint for how to do this in this league now. There's been a lot of, if you follow any other news reports or other beat writers or really just analysts around the league, they're all talking about how this is basically what Miami's doing. Miami is trying to basically follow this blueprint. They're trying to purge their salary cap. A couple other teams kind of doing that too, possibly tanking a little bit this year just to get draft picks, getting a young quarterback in that you don't have to pay an astronomical amount of money, and then using that money instead to surround him with as much talent as possible to win now. And the Browns are doing that because they have Baker Mayfield on the cheap for another 4 years. So they're able to go out and spend all this money on the defensive side, which was really good. They have a lot of really good depth on the defensive side because they've had so many draft picks. So that'll blow up in eventually a couple years too. But because when they have to pay those guys. But right now they've got them all in-house. They're able to go out and acquire offensive weapons because, again, they don't have to pay their quarterback darn near $30 million a year. And this team is now going to be competitive, and that's what it looks like has become the blueprint for other teams around the league. So for the purposes of our show today, the fantasy implications, Odell Beckham Jr., he doesn't budge in my rankings. You and I both have him as a top elite, top 6 guy. I think, again, negatively affects a couple of people on this team, but the team as a whole, it's going to be really good. It's a bump for Baker Mayfield, obviously a big raise for him for fantasy as a quarterback. It's good for Odell Beckham. Negatively impacts to me David Njoku and Jarvis Landry. Agreed.
It's more Joku than Jarvis.
A lot more Njoku. We agree on that. But I think, again, the number of targets Jarvis is going to get, I think he does more with the catches he gets, but I don't think he gets as many as he's used to getting because he's never been the number 2 on a team before either, and he is definitely the number 2 behind Jarvis Landry. And that's really the implications here. So adjust accordingly. Well, we talked about Odell Beckham, who, by the way, is going as the 6th wide receiver off the board as the first pick in the second round. So that's a little bit lower than you and I have him, but not that much lower. And that's with Tyreek Hill. I'm not mad at that. No, I'm not mad at it. That's with Tyreek Hill still being there, one spot above him. Yeah. Jarvis Landry currently going as the 18th wide receiver off the board, as the 12th pick in the 4th round. So
I'm not mad at that either.
I don't hate it. I expect them to separate a little bit. I think Odell's going to move up a couple spots. Personally, I mean, he could stay there and I'd be happy with it, but I think he's going to move up a spot or two. I think Jarvis moves down a spot or two, and I think that's more or less where they're going right now, where they're going to be drafted. And I don't hate either of those values, honestly. So, all right, let's move on. We can rapid fire through some of these. There's less implications. Deshaun Jackson going from the Buccaneers, traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. CJ, give me the quick rundown here.
Definitely going to have a better production than he did in Tampa. Carson Wentz loves to throw the ball down the field. Deshaun Jackson still has that elite speed, even at his age, and he's definitely productive. Win-win. I see his fantasy value definitely going to rise from where he was in Tampa.
Deshaun Jackson currently going as the 9th pick in the 8th round, as the 37th wide receiver off the board.
I love it.
So a fringe flex guy.
I love it.
I don't hate that. The implications
I hate him
here.
as my 3rd wide receiver.
No. I would love him as my 3rd wide receiver. Did you hear the crazy stat, by the way, since we're talking about the Buccaneers, where if you combine Ryan Fitzpatrick and Jameis Winston's numbers over the season, they actually finish as the quarterback 1 above Patrick Mahomes? Really? I have to verify this, but I heard this stat the other day, and I was like, what?
That doesn't sound true.
And now they bring in Bruce Arians? What? I am so in on Buccaneers weapons next year. But regardless, look, Alshon Jeffrey, I think this is good for him. It's going to be a viable distraction. Alshon Jeffrey, he's a guy that people sleep on, and for good reason. He's boom bust, but he's currently going as the 24th wide receiver off the board. That still feels like a pretty good deal. 11th pick in the 5th round. Deshaun Jackson, as we mentioned, going a couple rounds later. 37th wide receiver off the board. 24th wide receiver off the board for Alshon.
Nelson Aguilar, where is he going?
Nelson Aguilar is going. Well, Golden Tate is not there anymore. This isn't even all the way updated yet. He's in New York. Nelson Aguilar currently going as the 8th pick in the 13th round, the 60th wide receiver off the board. So that's nice. That's nice value.
I definitely like Nelson Aguilar this year, especially with Deshaun now in offense.
Yeah, I agree. So Aguilar though he thrived in, and I expect him to play in the slot, obviously.
The slot, he thrived in the slot a couple seasons ago, So
Alshon outside, Deshaun outside, Aguilar outside. I could see this being, pretty good passing attack for a back from injury yet again, Carson Wentz, and a guy that we expect hopefully to have a much healthier, more confident, and really productive season. Now, my question also, how does this affect Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert at tight end?
A lot of people have been asking me that. I'd still expect these guys to still be productive, and it's going to be interesting how they're going to do this because, you only got one football. But depending on how Doug Peterson be able to structure this offense in this year, and I do expect a lot of changes because, with all these weapons now, because, Dallas Goedert, he showed you something. He showed you something last year where he deserves to be on the field a lot more. And if you're going to be in 11 personnel, then, that means you're probably going to take away from Nelson Aguilar being in the slot. So I'm interested. I'm interested to see because right now I'm in loving it just as a fan wise, but fantasy, I want to know where's the consistency is going to be with everybody still be able to eat at each position.
Yeah, and that's kind of what remains to be seen. I just don't know. And then, of course, you guys have to address, running back. What are you going to do
Running
there?
back, yeah.
And that's
Get
going
a running
to
back, yeah.
that's going to take
That's gonna
targets.
that's gonna do it too, yeah.
It's it'll
In a perfect world, I mean to interrupt. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, in a perfect world, if you get a good running back that can be able to, catch the ball like Darren Sproles, young and still be able to make those tough yardage. You still be able to get the ball down the field deep with Deshaun and Nelly and Alshon, and then the red zone. If the red zone if that's where the tight ends start to that they have their money there, then you're gonna see less maybe once again they're probably gonna see less targets to Zach Ertz, normally, but red zone targets that's probably where he's gonna shine. Him and Dallas is probably gonna shine more, getting more involved in the red zone versus than just catches and receptions. I think that's probably where the trade-off is going to be. You're probably going to get less catches from Zach Ertz in the season, but and you might get more red zone touchdowns.
You don't see Zach Ertz as the number 2 on this team?
I see number 2. I don't know, because with Deshaun Jackson there now, man, that deep speed, he could be a distracting, but yet still get the ball. I mean, as it stands right now, I have to agree with you. Probably he's most likely going to have to be number 2. Probably number 1, to be honest, and then Alshon's number 2. If you really look at it,
Carson Wentz does like his tight ends.
Yeah, it might be the other way around. Zach Ertz is probably number 1, and Alshon 2, then probably Deshaun. Yeah, probably that way.
Final answer. All right, moving on. Devin Funchess signing from the Carolina Panthers to the Indianapolis Colts. We talked about how we love this signing. This finally gives a viable weapon to Andrew Luck on the other side of the field from T.Y. Hilton. I think that this helps T.Y. because T.Y. is not the biggest guy. He's fast, he's shifty, he's got good hands, he runs really good routes, and that's why he's been a fringe wide receiver 1 throughout his career with an elite passer like Andrew Luck there. But Devin Funchess comes in, completely different skill set. Big body, pretty speedy still, has really good jump ball. He's good at boxing guys out. He's really come along the last couple years in his career with the Carolina Panthers and Cam Newton being his quarterback. He gets a drastic upgrade to Andrew Luck. I think that this is a huge boost for Devin Funchess. I think that this really won't hurt T.Y. Hilton at all, because if anything, this will make coverage roll away from him from time to time. And so I expect T.Y. Hilton to finish probably somewhere around, because I expect this offense as a whole to take another step forward. If anything, I see this potentially hurting Eric Ebron, because Eric Ebron a little bit touchdown dependent, but I think Eric Ebron's still going to be a viable tight end. So my view, upgrade for Andrew Luck, because he's got more targets. Always a good thing there. Lateral move for T.Y. Hilton, upgrade for Funchess himself, slight downgrade for Eric Ebron. Running backs remains to be seen, because we don't even know what the running back situation is going to be. They're interviewing guys. As of now, it's still Marlon Mack. That's kind of my view on this. CJ, what about you?
I think this is definitely an upgrade, just like you said, quarterback upgrade, coaching upgrade. I think because he's going to be the number two wide receiver, and instead of being the number 1, so he's not he's not pulling that number 1 coverage from the cornerbacks, and then that's going to be able to open up a lot of things for him. Just like you said, I feel like Eric Ebron is going to be getting the short end of the stick with that, because if they get in the red zone, you got that big body wide receiver right there. I see Andrew Luck giving him that play. Right. Definitely a guy that you could probably put as your, this is a topic that we keep talking about, as a third wide receiver. Flex guy, possibly. Really, I don't really like wide receivers in my flex. I'm more like running backs. But yeah, definitely a third wide receiver on your team. Couldn't hurt your team.
So, yeah, that's fair. I could see this being a world where, honestly, Funchess ends up being a wide receiver too. I think he's got that kind of upside here with Andrew Luck. I guess the question is, awesome. Where do you take him? Because T.Y. Hilton currently going as the 10th wide receiver off the board with the 12th pick in the second round. I'm looking for where Funchess is going now. While I look for that, where do you think he should be going?
Funchess he's got to be like around 7 and between 7 and 9. It's gotta be.
Okay, yeah. So again, there's not been enough time for because these numbers are over a 30-day period, but I think he's climbing. He's right now going as the second pick in the 13th round. So
Yeah. See, well, yeah, that's not happening. I think
that's never gonna happen.
time when it comes to draft time, I think he's gonna go between the 7th and 9th round, between there.
I could see him going somewhere between the 6th and the 8th, so similar ranges. And at that point, 6th to 8th, you're talking about well, we'll say 6th to 9th, early 6th round. We're talking about the wide receiver 25, so top flex player, all the way down to 9th round, which is 41st. So we're going into depth bench plays there. I think that this is a guy who, with his skill set and how he came on with, his body of work and his play in Carolina with Cam Newton, going to Indianapolis where they're going to air the ball out a lot more and they have an elite passing quarterback in this league. I think his upside is definitely in the wide receiver 2 range. I would feel confident getting him, kind of like you're saying, as a flex guy, and knowing that I'm going to be probably getting a good floor week to week because he's going to be pretty good outside possession guy. He's going to get touchdown upside. He could easily give you low end wide receiver 1 numbers week to week as well if he's able to consistently get touchdowns. And so he's a guy that I'm probably going to be targeting in a lot of leagues because I expect him to be much lower down on these lists because people who aren't in the know, they're going to sleep on him. And that's a guy, like, I'm going to be targeting a lot of these guys. Devin Funches, Chris Godwins of the world, these guys, the Tyrell Williams, these guys people are going to sleep on, which I think have serious upside. And so load up on running backs early, people. That's what I'm going to do. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I bottom line, this is a huge upgrade for Devin Funches, and draft him with confidence. If you have him in dynasty leagues, you're pretty ecstatic right now. Let's see. Jamison Crowder went from the Washington Redskins to the New York Jets. He gets an upgraded quarterback, Sam Darnold, but he's going in to be the wide receiver 3, you would imagine, and probably going into the slot, which is, what he does. But that's also where Quincy Enunwa really has been thriving as of late. But we know Quincy can also play outside. I just don't know if there's going to be enough volume here. I don't think this negatively affects really anybody on the team. I think this positively helps Sam Darnold because it gives him another target. But I don't think anyone else this really affects because, if anything, Le'Veon Bell is drawing a lot of the targets on this team. So. Right. I'm not probably pursuing Jamison Crowder because I think he's 3rd on the depth chart. I think he's 4th in the progression because I don't really have any tight ends worth talking about. But I think he's going to be the 4th target in the progression. I don't think he's going to get a lot of volume. What do you think, CJ?
Same here, man. I'm not going to be – my stock is definitely not going to be in Jamison Crowder this year. Not because of the situation, because I think it's a good situation. Young quarterback. Established running back, deep threat in Robbie Anderson, Quincy Enunwa, the intermediate route. So, I mean, the offense is there for him to be able to succeed as a, 3rd down or, underneath stuff that he could be able to possibly take it further. But it's not. Adam Gates is not appealing to me as a coach or offensive coordinator. His stench is still. That Miami stench is still following him to New York. So I'm not I'm not with it.
The Miami behind the scenes situation.
Yeah.
It's a whole can of worms that you can really dive into. And we won't bother with that right now. But I mean, it's bad between all the rumors coming out about how he wanted to win now and Miami kind of wanted to tank. And Miami's always been kind of in this 6 to 8 win range, so they're never getting really good draft picks, and they're just kind of stuck in this limbo. And I don't know, it's hard because Adam Gase, we've seen great things with him as the offensive coordinator. We've seen not great things with him as the head coach, but again, in Miami. No offense, Miami Dolphins fans, but it's true. This is a team that has really struggled for years. They've struggled for years and years and years since Marino. So I mean, I don't know. I'm willing to give him a chance because I think that his entire offense is upgraded going from Miami to the Jets, especially with bringing in Le'Veon Bell. We know the upside of your guy, Robbie Anderson. Quincy Enunwa there, he's flashed. Sam Darnold, huge upgrade at quarterback. So we'll see. I like the Jets offense as a whole. I hate them as a team for signing CJ Mosley, but But I think the Jets are going to surprise some people. I think that they are probably my lock for finishing 2nd in this division. And I don't think I'm crazy for saying that. And that's with Adam Gase as the head coach. And maybe he turns it around. Maybe he gets back to being good. Because, I mean, honestly, the Dolphins, I think that they're going to be kind of exciting with Ryan Fitzpatrick there, but I don't think that they're going to be winning a ton of games. I think that the Dolphins, I just said the Dolphins, the Bills, I think that they've done some things to try and, bring some life in there, but they're another team that is just really trying to find an identity, and they're slowly building. But players don't want to go there either right now based on the way it's been. It's going to be a while, and I think the Jets, based on the offensive weapons that they've added, the defensive pieces that they put into place, and how this team kind of was last year, this is a team that I think it's not a hard division to come in second in. It's a hard division to win with the Patriots, but I don't think it's a hard division to come in second. So I have the Jets finishing second, and I don't know, I think it'll be interesting, but to the point of what we're talking about here, Jamison Crowder, not a guy I'm pursuing, because again, I don't want pieces that are going to be fourth in offensive progression. He'll probably be a waiver wire guy, I would imagine. Yeah. I don't think this really helps anybody. Let's move on. Adam Humphries, a guy who could help a lot of people. He was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, now with the Tennessee Titans. I mean, I think he comes in and he's going to be their slot guy, I would imagine at least. CJ, what are your thoughts on Adam Humphries now with the Tennessee Titans?
He is a guy that Mariota is most likely going to be looking for. He's that going to be in the slot. I agree. I double down that with you. He's in an offense where, if not Mariota, maybe get the ball to him. Maybe it's Ryan Tannehill. You know what I'm saying? Either one. Definitely like their slot players. So, he should, definitely get I don't know if he's going to be as productive as he was in Tampa Bay, because he was starting to really come on and making his name there in Tampa Bay. But he has the potential to be able to do something with Tennessee, and it's all going to be a part of, who he gets that chemistry with. Is it going to be Marcus Mariota, hopefully 16 games, or is it going to be Marcus Mariota halfway the season, then Ryan Tannehill comes in? So you just don't know. But Humphries, end of the day, I feel like he's going to be a waiver wire guy.
I agree. It's a move that makes a lot of sense for the team. I think that this is a really good move for, like you said, Marcus Mariota. This offense as a whole gives them a good, proven weapon in the slot. So Corey Davis and Tajay Sharp can really run around on the outside. Tywan Taylor probably as well. That's going to be the rotation. Adam Humphries is going to be a guy that they use to move the chains, short yard situations. I don't think he's going to be used to stretch the field a ton. And obviously they like to run the ball in Tennessee. Derrick Henry getting a ton of carries. Dion Lewis being there as a good 3-down back as well. He can really catch the ball, though they don't use him a ton. I'll put it this way. He has, last season, a really good season for him. 76 receptions, 816 yards, averaging 10.7 yards per catch, and 5 touchdowns. Over under in Tennessee.
Under.
I'm under as well. I don't think he'll get to that reception total. I definitely don't think he's going to get to that yardage. I think the touchdowns are the only thing that because touchdowns are iffy. I could see him easily in the 4 to 6 touchdown range, but I think his receptions and yardage definitely drops because it's not as an explosive an offense. The Titans are a little bit more methodical with the way they do things, and they want to run the ball, and I think they pride themselves on doing that. So and also, this is a team that I think is not completely sold on Marcus Mariota at this point. Guy who hasn't been healthy a full season in his career. I don't think they want him to shoulder the load, and that's why they want to split it 50-50 run pass at the very least.
You might be getting a scenario just like Jacksonville, basically this season. They can't, no, last season, where they, wanted to take the ball out of Bortles' hand and they wanted to run the ball and they brought in Fournette. So this might be, we might be getting Jaguars 2.0, but just in Tennessee this year.
Yeah, it's crazy to be. I feel like we're always saying this. Like, we don't know how the Titans are going to be competitive. In the last couple of years, they've been, a team that's slightly above 500. So yeah. I think they have the pieces to be competitive. I think they do. I think they're going to control the clock. I think that they're going to be a balanced offense, but that doesn't necessarily lead well to fantasy. And yeah, for our purposes, Adam Humphries, I don't think this upgrades really anything. And for Adam Humphries, I think this is a downgrade for fantasy. I think it's a good real life NFL move. I think this is not a great fantasy move. So Adam Humphries, if guys go down ahead of him, maybe it gets a little bit more exciting. But yeah, that's kind of my stance right now. Philip Dorsett re-signs with the Patriots. I would expect more or less what we've seen the last couple of years because there hasn't been a ton of turnover on the offensive side. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with Gronk yet, for instance. We don't know his future, and obviously that will impact the team as a whole. But Philip Dorsett, I don't know. This is a guy who's he's never topped 33 receptions in a season. And that goes back to his early days being drafted and playing with the Colts, last 2 years with the Patriots, 12, 32 receptions respectively. He had 3 touchdowns last year. Sorry, looking at the wrong stat. I'm not rushing out to draft Philip Dorsett. Agreed?
Neither am I. Agreed.
Yeah. And there's no real implications here because he's back with the same team. Moving on, Randall Cobb, we already talked about this. So Randall Cobb was with the Packers, now with the Cowboys. I think that this is an upgrade for Dak Prescott. I think this gives him a much more reliable target in the slot. But I don't think that it's a good move for Cobb, and I don't think he's necessarily taking away a ton of targets. If anything, this will be probably a good move for Amari Cooper because Amari Cooper will have another name on the field, and they'll have to respect that. I could see this hurting Michael Gallup because Michael Gallup was getting a decent amount of volume, and I think he's going to see less of it. And then Zeke, I expect to be completely unaffected. What say you, CJ?
Same. I agree.
All right, let's move on. Cole Beasley, the guy that Randall Cobb is replacing in the slot in Dallas. Cole Beasley goes from the Cowboys to the Buffalo Bills. Talking about the Bills, these next two guys, Cole Beasley, John Brown, they get a slot receiver and a speedy outside threat. What are your thoughts on the Bills now that we are actually focusing on them?
Josh Allen, can he be able to get the ball down the field? He has the cannon for the arm. John Brown, should be able to benefit from that. The underneath stuff is yet to be seen, so I don't know about that. But overall, I think out of the two, who'd be more productive in this offense, it's probably gonna be John Brown.
Yeah, I mean, Zay Jones, I think, is the biggest beneficiary here because he's not the only wide receiver in town. Zay Jones is going to be their probably featured guy. John Brown's going to stretch the field, and John Brown was really, really good with Joe Flacco last year. And Josh Allen, we know he has a cannon. We saw it. We heard the gasps at the combine in his rookie year, and it made Jason Cabrera, our other co-host, who's obviously not here today, fall in love with this guy. And I was very anti Josh Allen. Yeah, he can chuck it deep, but he never really does. He actually, out of the top prospects last year, threw it the shortest yards per target going into the draft. I think Cole Beasley's in a good spot here. I think Cole Beasley's going to be in a good spot for good production based on volume. I think he's got a good floor. His ceiling's going to be limited based on the offense and the scoring position. I don't think that this negatively impacts really anything. John Brown's going to get minimal targets, but I don't know what the quality of target will be anyway. Zay Jones will have less coverage on him. So at the end of the year, this will be interesting, CJ.
Okay.
So I think we agree that the progression is going to be probably Zay Jones, John Brown, Cole Beasley. Maybe not their production, but that's going to be the targets outside, inside.
Right.
Where do you think they finish in the pecking order?
A group or
for fantasy, individually for fantasy. Which one of these guys would you rather have taking draft value out of it? Because Zay Jones is the obvious choice to take. You expect him to be their number one target, but he's probably still going to draw number one coverage. So,
right.
What are your thoughts?
I still got to go John Brown for me because if I feel Josh Allen, if I feel what this coaching staff is going to do is going to have him open up the playbook, hope that he's comfortable. Put offensive lineman pieces, because they were terrible at protection, passing. They were terrible. But if they fix that, through the draft, and I really haven't heard their name in free agency doing anything else outside of these two moves here. But if they do that and fix that in the draft, and of course, work that out during training camp and blah blah blah, they should be able to get this ball down the field and start passing. So I like John Brown. Out of the three, I think John Brown will be the more productive, and I think he will have the higher finish when it's all said and done.
See, for me, I you know me, I like to have the floor with the upside, so I would probably go Beasley because I think Beasley's going to get a lot of checkdowns. I think that LaShawn McCoy, obviously, he has a lot of injuries. Who knows how much he has left in the tank? LaShawn McCoy loses targets in this deal. Absolutely. Yeah. LaShawn McCoy gets a downgrade with Cole Beasley coming in.
Well, yeah, that's be beneficial. That's more beneficial for the Bills. I mean, if you want to keep them, keep them healthy.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, it's a good football move. Bad fantasy move. LaShawn McCoy takes a step back. I think Cole Beasley's the one that I want for a floor. I don't know what his scoring upside is going to be. Zay Jones last year had 7 touchdowns. This is a team that didn't score a lot of touchdowns last year. I don't think Cole Beasley's going to, he's not a big guy, so I don't know what his touchdown upside would be, but I know he's going to get PPR wise. I think he's the obvious number one. Targets, yardage, I don't know. John Brown is the thing I just don't know what to trust because he looked good with Flacco, but Flacco is a really good deep ball, and that's the way the Ravens set up the offense. They do a lot of play action to set up that deep pass all the time. I don't know how they're going to really be using that, and I don't know the quality of target with the coverage that John Brown's going to be facing with Josh Allen as his quarterback. I could completely see. It's only going to take a couple of big plays for you to be right, and John Brown to be the number one guy, but it's safer to go with a guy like Cole Beasley, and that's kind of where it's torn. So Zay Jones, he's going to get a little bit of everything. I don't know. Cole Beasley has the safest floor. John Brown, the highest ceiling. I think Zay Jones is kind of in limbo. I don't know. We'll see. And let's go to the tight end position. We talked about these guys all pretty much already. Tyler Eifert was in Cincinnati, stays in Cincinnati. He is a guy that, when healthy, is an elite tight end in this league. But he's missed... Oh, man, what an asterisk. He has missed more games in his playing career than he has actually played, which is impressive. So, CJ, Tyler Eifert, are you drafting him at all?
No, unfortunately not. If I, that great season he had with the Bills, not the Bills, or the Bengals, that feels so long ago. If he could harness that and stay healthy, then absolutely. But that's not happening. That hasn't happened in so long. So no, I will be having no stock in Tyler Eifert.
Yeah, going back to the 2015 season, 13 games played, 13 touchdowns, beautiful. Since then, 5 touchdowns, 0 touchdowns, 1 touchdown. And that's with 8 games, 2 games, and 4 games respectively. So not good. He's only played in 43 games in 6 seasons.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad. Look, if he's there at the end of my draft, I will draft him because he has. Well, yeah, I mean, he gets injured in the season. He's gonna at least give me a week of health, and then I'm gonna probably stream into the position anyway. So I'll play to the upside of him, and when he goes down, I'll have probably anticipated that. I'll probably have something else in the wings, and then drop him at that point. But the upside when he plays is that he's going to be pretty good. Will he make it to the regular season? Remains to be seen. But this is a guy who I think is going to fall out of draft. He's currently going undrafted. And if I can get him as my late round, last pick flyer, and I've been able to just stock up on depth at every other position, why not? What do I have to lose? This is a guy that's a touchdown machine. Obviously, the Bengals, they really like to use him. Andy Dalton loves to target him in the red zone. And so I expect him to, be good until he gets healthy. Until he gets injured while he's healthy. So he'll be good. And then I'll move on from him and I'll stream the position. Because, look, it's just the way I draft. We know this. I'm not going to get my hands on Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, George Kittle, Eric Ebron, Evan Ingram, Hunter Henry. Like, these names Jimmy Graham, these names that we expect to have pretty decent years next year. I'm just not going to get any of them because all of them are going in mostly. Some of them, Travis Kelce's going in the second round right now. That's a tight end in the second round. Now, obviously, like we talked about, if Tyreek Hill news comes down, he misses a lot of time. That's not a bad pick, but it's still a tight end in the second round. Third rounders for a lot of these guys. Most of them will be gone by the 7th. I'm not drafting tight ends that early. You know me. I'm not going to do it. Yeah, so, based on the talent that's still available, right now, Jared Cook, Jimmy Graham in the 10th, 11th, I'll take a shot on one of those guys but I expect them to rise in drafts. So if it ends up being double-digit rounds, I'm looking at guys like Austin Hooper and Jordan Reed, Greg Olsen. Well, obviously Greg Olsen's not going to be around. We know that now. But he's not been phased out of this. But yeah, I will 100% go with a guy like Tyler Eifert, and whatever. As soon as he gets hurt, I'll stream the position like I do every year anyway. We always stream the position. Jared Cook, we talked about going from the Raiders to the Saints. We think that that's a great move. We think that that helps the entire offense. That's a good move for him. That's the best quarterback in the situation that he's been surrounded by. And honestly, I think that this helps Drew Brees. I think that this helps even Michael Thomas on the outside, because this is another big body red zone threat. I really like this signing. What say you, CJ?
I do too. Just like I said, I think with Drew Brees, where he at his stage in his career, I think this is the best Jared Cook can be able to get, and he's definitely going to benefit from it. Got to establish running game, wide receivers there. Now you're just adding your presence in to be able to add some more juice to this offense, and he's going to eat. He's going to eat with the Saints and Sean Payton.
Yeah, I see no way that this hurts the team. I expect the team to be good. Obviously, Alvin Kamara. He's going to get a ton of targets. Traquan Smith, we saw him coming along. He's going to be good. Jared Cook, maybe he affects him more than Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas, I think he's going to be great. Ted Ginn's going to stretch the field. This is great for Drew Brees. I think this helps the whole offense, and this is going to keep them on the field scoring. And I think the Saints are going to be the Saints next year. This is a good move. Jesse James went from the Steelers to the Lions. I think that this is a decent move, but I don't think it negatively impacts anything. It gives Matthew Stafford another target, which could help him, but I don't think that this affects anything one way or the other. Because Jesse James, look, he was phased out of his own offense with the Steelers. He's not an elite guy. He's I think a better blocker than a pass catcher. I'm not expecting this to be a great move. Maybe it's a good move for the team for real life, but it's not a good move for fantasy. What do you think, CJ?
Fantasy, I think he's a guy that's very low on the tight end as it stands right now. He has the potential to go up more depending on, whatever the chemistry between him and Stafford is. But as it stands right now, he's definitely low. A guy that's in late rounds, possibly, depending on your leagues, possibly waiver wire. So he has the potential to be able to be really good and be able to catch on with Stafford. And he's a guy that you can also be able to get waiver wire. I feel like he's between those things right now until we see it happen.
Jesse James is currently going undrafted. I expect that to be the case. I don't think this is a great move for really. I don't think this is a good move for him for fantasy. He's never been a great fantasy option anyway, and I don't think this is going to make him a great fantasy option. And it's a good target for Stafford to spread the ball out, but I think that this is a move that's really not worth us spending much any more time on. I don't think it's going to impact anything. So we'll move on.
This next guy. So
yeah, the next guy. We already talked about the Bills. Tyler Kroft was with the Bengals, now with the Bills. Currently going undrafted. I expect him to go undrafted. This is a guy who, look, you can probably stream him in a good matchup, but he hasn't played a full season. Well, actually, no, he did in 2017. I was going to say since his rookie year, but 2017 he did. But that's behind Tyler Eifert, and even with Eifert going down, missing that entire season, he only had 42 receptions for 400 yards and admittedly 7 touchdowns, which is not too terrible. But I don't know. I don't expect to see a huge spike of production. We already talked about the Bills, what we think this offense will be. I don't know. This is a team that I'm not buying a lot of assets in. I'm going to let other people deal with that. I'll let somebody else draft Tyler Kroft. I think this is a good move for Josh Allen. It's a red zone weapon. It's a touchdown target for him. I don't think he's going to be used very much between the 20s, so I don't think he's going to really affect the wide receivers very much. Maybe negatively impacts the running game and maybe Zay Jones because he's a red zone guy. But other than that, I don't know. What do you think, CJ?
I'm just, while you're talking, I'm just thinking, like, where are these guys actually going to finish at each position at the end of the year? Because this Bills offense it's a slight upgrade.
It's interesting. It's an interesting offense.
It's like, it's like Taco Bell, seasoning right now. What sauce would you like? Would you like mild or fire? And I think right now,
Diablo.
Yeah, they're mild. They're mild. You know what I'm saying? And that's the beginning. That's the beginning sauce. So right now they're mild. There's not that much of an upgrade.
Sean McDermott, we'll see what he magically pulls together.
See if he lasts another season. See about that.
He's got a lot of pieces, and I don't think any of them are great pieces. So sorry, Bills fans, but
You know it's true.
It's a team that, like I said, is going to be an interesting team and an interesting offense to watch. But over under CJ 6 wins.
Oh God, I haven't even seen their schedule, but I'm gonna say 5 wins.
5 wins. He's going under. I would probably pencil it in for somewhere between 5 and 6 myself. So, could they surprise us and do a little bit better? Sure, but I don't think they're going to be a 500 team. I have little expectations for them.
You got guaranteed 2 losses to the Patriots. You got, I arguably can say guaranteed 2 losses to the Jets, even though that stench of Adam Gates. And then maybe a split with the Dolphins.
I could see a home road split with the Dolphins. Could be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, all right, that's it. Those are all the notable free agent impacts that we have so far. Part 2, wide receivers and tight ends. So that's going to do it for us today. Please make sure you guys tune in on Tuesday when we'll be back talking about, it'll be kind of our last free agency focus show, and that'll be our top remaining free agents. There's a couple of big names out there that have not been signed, and of course we'll keep bringing you guys the top headlines and when these guys sign down the line, but we're going to refocus. We're going to start moving our attention to the NFL draft and fantasy drafts and things of that nature. So, top remaining free agents. We'll talk about that on Tuesday's show. Make sure you guys subscribe wherever you're listening. We're a year-round show every Tuesday and Friday. You can find us all over the webs. And, of course, we are on Twitch now, YouTube, Google, Apple Podcasts. We're all over. Just make sure you follow, subscribe, rate, review the show. Goes a long way to support it. Follow us on Twitter at the FF Fanatics, or individually, I'm at G Palmer FFF. CJ's at CJ Hickman 89. Jason, if he was here, could tell you he's at Jason Cabrera 13. And we'll be back on Tuesday. So everybody, take care. Have a great week. CJ, any parting thoughts?
Hey man, thanks you guys for joining us, even those that were on Twitch, and hope this you get to be able to partake of this show, this weekend while you're walking the dog, spending time with the kids, just listen.
There you go. There you go. Sounds good. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff to get through. These shows have been a little bit on the long side, but it's a lot of context, I should say, and it's important stuff. A lot of people overlook these things, and this is the stuff that we will take forward with us to all of our rankings and why we choose the things we do, which then generally 95% of the time positively impacts our fantasy season. This is the important stuff you need to know. So everybody, take care. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Tuesday. Bye, guys.